On behalf of the captain and the crew, we'd like to welcome you aboard Flight 061, now departing to the world of aircraft sales. Cabin crew, arm doors, and cross-check.
Thank you for listening to us today. If this is the first time listening to this podcast, welcome aboard. If you're a returning listener, we're glad you're back. Seat 1A provides tips and tricks from more than 5 million miles worth of flying to help you take off from the crowd.
In today's experience, recorded on the 29th of June, 2022, we're happy to bring you a very exclusive interview with a former sales manager of Airbus.
And then, after all that excitement's done, we will wrap up with a discussion about the current events in the world of aviation.
All right. So, we have something kind of different for you listeners today. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you former colleague and now friend, Mr. Dee Leon, who is joining us from Beijing. Dee,
hello, everyone.
Hi.
Wow.
So... just a bit of background. Dee and I worked at the Beijing 2022 Olympic Winter Games, and he just quietly mentioned off the side one day, I think we were probably walking, blah, blah, blah. I used to sell Airbus, blah, blah, blah. And, I stopped dead in my tracks. Seat 1A goes right up. I'm like, excuse me, what? We need to tell more. So we thought we'd bring him in on to our experience, and we want to learn more and find out what it was like. So, Dee, tell us exactly, what did you do? When was this? What was things like back then?
Well, I joined Airbus without any sales experience. The only reason for me to join them was to get some experience from there. And luckily enough, I got it. And I never regret it because you learn so much from a huge organization with so many departments, so advanced, cutting-edge technology, and you travel a lot. You see people. You're getting experience from places that you never imagined before. Yeah, that's exciting.
That's all. What year was this in?
Oh, yeah,
that started,
was
I guess.
in the mid-1990s till the end of 1990s. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So we're going way back. And how old were you at that time? Not to put a date on your age.
Late 20s. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been incredible for someone of that age.
No. Late 20s, 27 maybe. Yeah.
Easy. No. So mid 90s. I mean, what was the main airlines in China? Sort of like at least the international players. Obviously, Air China.
Yeah, we got all the players. Some of them merged today, but we got China Eastern, China Southern, the main players, and some other. We have China like Northwest, China Southwest, and some other local names. They're still there, but now they're merged together into bigger groups. We had mainly Boeing and MD aircraft. We have some Tupolev 154 traded by potatoes, and we wet leased some Illusion 86. At least one. I was on board of one, I'm sure. Some of them, but well, you don't want to get into a wet lease aircraft from Russian.
Yeah, no. It's funny. You say that from then, and now how is that ever so relevant now in 2022?
Well, that's political. We're talking about technology, right?
Yeah. So you started up as a young buck trying to get some marketing experience. And what was your job then? Essentially, it was to sell Airbus aircraft.
Yeah. My job was to sell aircraft. I was like, it's like my next job should be selling aircraft carriers. That would be my only future, right? But people are telling me that why you get involved? It's country to country business. How can you do anything about it? I kind of agree with them in the beginning, but later on, I realized even if I'm just selling a piece of rope and all of a sudden DuPont came with the new invention of nylon, I'll be in the same situation. You always have political influences where you cannot control. So working as a salesman for Airbus or for anything is the same. You need to, how to say it? Let me think. Yeah, you need to get good relationship in one hand and get good product from on the other hand.
Yeah, very good point. So speaking of product, what was the exact product you were selling? Was it the A320?
Well, everything. When I joined the company, we had 3 A340s already, not in operation yet, maybe not delivered yet. And then that's it. Only 3 Airbuses. And then we are trying, the strategy was to break through from the narrow body, but of course, wide body is welcomed if anybody needs any. Yeah, so I was involved in many projects, coastal area. I was mainly covering the southern part of the coastal area, and I was also active in southwest and the northwest part of the country. So we're just talking about all the possibilities. Doesn't matter what.
So the airlines that were existing, like, were they open and looking for this new product that you were trying to think, or were they sort of primarily Boeing and McDonnell Douglas, and you were knocking on the door saying, "Hey, hello, we have this new bright shiny object. Can you consider it?"
Oh yeah. Airlines can be very conservative because changing product line is very dangerous. Obviously, you need to train people. It's very costly. And somebody coming to devotion. The story from my boss was when he was young and a salesman, he went to the airline. The boss met him, say, "Oh, you are the new salesman from Airbus." And he said, "Yes." And you're here to sell aircraft. And he said, "Yes." And the final line from the boss was, "Over my dead body." And that's it. In China, the thing goes slightly differently. The bosses are mainly pilots or engineers, so they do have open minds of what's your product. But also, on the other hand, in the 1960s and the 70s, China are only Russian product users. So when President Nixon visited China, riding his 707, landed in Chinese airports, the Chinese aviators were like, "That's brand new, right?" And they are asking, "Can we buy some of those? Now we are friends." So the U.S. said, "Yes, of course, you can buy it." And then the negotiation starts. The Chinese say, "Okay, we're buying 10 707s, so we need 40 spare engines because those are four engine aircraft." And Boeing said, No. You only need maybe 8 engines instead of 40. And the Chinese says, "You imperialism enemies again. You want to control us." The Chinese said that because their experience based on Tupolev is that the engine is not so reliable. You need a lot of spare parts and even spare engines to do replacements. So finally, the Chinese agreed that they only have some engine and do a test. And the test went well. So the Chinese aviation system is convinced that Boeing is the best. That's 1970, maybe early 1980. And from there, the Chinese aviation system just copied Boeing, the whole system. If Boeing have Department A, then the Chinese aviation system will have a Department A. It's exact copy of Boeing. So
interesting.
Oh, it's difficult for me. Come on. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I joined the business. Oh, okay. So yeah. So selling concept, selling confidence is more important than selling product in the very beginning. Even though they are interested, everybody is interested in new products in China. But it's so difficult, so hard to convince that there's a different system existing in the world and it's still better than the Russian one.
So you go marching in there into basically what is sounding like Boeing clone land.
We do have some MD, and we even have an MD factory here, production line here. But yeah, Boeing is the best. Boeing is the best. That's the full stop.
Yeah. So what was the selling factor back then on the 320 to try to convince these people?
Well,
efficiency or design performance?
Better performance overall, including fuel consumption, including less maintenance, including easy piloting and training, everything. It's a aircraft 20 years later. So yeah, and it's a new first generation fly-by-wire commercial. So of course.
That's right. I remember when that first came out, it was like a huge debate in the industry. It's like, you're bringing fighter
flying without a stick.
Yeah. You're flying. Well, we still have the stick, but it's a side stick instead of a center one, you don't need to force it. You just feel it, right? And then flying by computer is the main concern. Are those computers reliable? And French is not famous for computer manufacturing, things like that, blah blah blah. So yeah, it's long way to reach the final goal.
So what was your first success? Which airline was it, or if you're allowed to share?
Yeah, that's China Southern. We break through 10+10 contract for 20 aircraft, 10+10 option. And then we made a delivery. We made a delivery in within half a year. Yeah, 1997. So 1997 delivery and the operation. That was the major breakthrough.
So when you're selling aircraft, obviously you're selling the physical plane that's going to go in the sky, but does Airbus also have to send, and as part of the package, shall we say, like the flight simulator, all the safety certification standards, is that all part of that, or is that sort of broken up into different companies and entities?
Well, aircraft is apparently a composed machine that you have multiple manufacturers, and normally a simulator is separate contract, and then you have the seats, you have all the other stuff that some goes with the package, some goes separately, so it's flexible.
Wow, that's I'm trying to think how you, because you're right, if you just bring the plane, that's one thing, but you need everything to service that plane.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just thinking of the airports.
Selling business is a teamwork. It's not only the commercial team that you need engineers, you need contractors, you need lawyers, you need everybody, and you need training center, and you need so I'm just there mainly to set up the initial contact, to convince that the team is supposed to be functioning and the product is already there. When you get more involved, like people may come to me, say, I want to buy a airplane, and it's not Airbus, but I have certain requirements. I saw that in one of the air show. Could you help me contact them and see if their performance meets my requirements, or can you give me my requirements? See, are they are they interested in developing certain performance? It's getting more and more. Yeah. So you're a contact point.
And what about airports? I mean, I just remember when the 380 was coming out, it was a huge infrastructure issue that had to be dealt with, obviously because of the size of the 380, the dual bridging, the taxiway, the ramp. I mean, that's a special case. But bringing another narrow body, of course, any jet bridge would work. But ground equipment, certain things, even as simple as the taxi line at the gate would need a new indicator on it. So that includes training for cabin crew, training for maintenance crew, training for
storage facility, everything. Everything is involved. A320 is not a major issue technically, because China were operating MD-82 and the 737 many years already. So
they were close.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Those are all 150 seaters. The problem was, first of all, China do not have a concept of hubs. So you don't want to fly from a provincial city to a provincial capital and then fly to another provincial capital and then to another part of the China. You don't do that in China. You want to fly from your local city to Shanghai or Beijing directly. And we don't have that capacity for the airports in Shanghai and in Beijing. And considering not so advanced traffic control at that time, also the huge population we have in China and the lack of that hub concept. So introducing more narrow bodies is actually putting more pressures for the major airports like Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou. But at the same time, we're also building more airports. We see the forthcoming pressure. And China was famous for its construction speed and capacity. So that becomes a driving force later on. And also starting from the 1990s, on the horizon, we're talking about a fast train, the bullet train. So that was not a competitor at that time, but now look at the massive structure we have. So that takes maybe more than 50% of the traffic, and some intercity airlines were shut down because train traffic is faster, and it's from downtown to downtown, so it's easier and can also be cheaper. So that kills intercity buses, it kills intercity airlines. It's a game changer. So you never see that in the 1990s. In the 1990s, we're talking about, are we going to use wheels or are we going to use magnet for the new train? It's just concept, and later on becomes hyper reality.
Yeah, wow. This is like talking about change management. I mean, and everything we're talking about now is, we're taking for granted. In the mid 90s, the infrastructure was just so
starting.
Different.
Yeah. And A380 though was a huge impact on everything. First of all, we don't even have the production line. Jean-Pierre, our boss, were having a meeting with all us that we need a bigger gun to win the war. So we go for
the A380.
That's the bigger gun. Yeah,
literally. Yeah. What so at this time, you're in China trying to market this aircraft. What about surrounding countries? Was Airbus already sort of starting to get up and running in those countries, or was it all kind of the same at that time, like Asia as a whole?
We do have Airbuses already in Cathay Pacific, Singapore Airlines, ANA. Maybe we have some in Korea and South Korea already. Airbus China was also in charge of Mongolia and North Korea. In my region, when I was working in the Northwest, the concern is A320 able to fly to the Middle East? And when we doing Southwest, the performance seminar was about single engine failure and capping the pressure over Tibet. It's a very, very wide range performance requirement. And in my coastal area, the other concern is that can you fly from Taiwan airport because it's so hot and so wet at the same time? You have reduced the performance for engine and everything. So in China's Zhuhai Air Show, I have to do another demonstration for A340 nonstop from, let's say, Hong Kong to New York. It's done before, but we have to do it again to show the domestic Chinese market that it's doable. I was not on board.
What do you mean by do a demonstration? That's a very hefty term.
Well, you fly it. you fly it. You fly it. You do a proper flight. We have one aircraft flying from Europe to China for the air show, and then departure for New York, and landed over there. So the aviators apparently know that when they depart and when they land. So we don't need to announce that in the newspaper, but people will know.
See the data.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and also we may want to do like auto navigation, auto landing at the same time. That was pre-GPS era.
You just hope that it works.
Well, you just put satellite antennas on the field, on the airfield, so you can still do the auto landing, no problem. But you need to demonstrate.
Yeah, I remember early 90s. I think it was Air India.
Mm-hmm.
They had a fatal crash because the pilots were not trained and didn't set the computers right for auto landing and it landed short of the airfield. And it was a big debate then as to, the safety of the computer flying the plane sort of concept. But so I can imagine these are the things that you were facing.
Yeah, everybody is facing different aspects. I mean, you always have your challenge. Aviation is actually simpler because, you only have two competitors. Everything is open in the air, so you need to find a way to present yourself. You need to find the logic behind it. That's actually easier.
Now, at the start, you mentioned, you were like wet leasing Russian planes. Was there a large leasing market in China at the time? And were you selling to any of those kind of companies as well? Or was it primarily just the carriers?
Well, China is constantly short of pilot, so leasing is kind of difficult. You can expand the fleet, but you don't have people to fly it, right? So wet leasing is one solution, but then China also get a very high concern of safety. We don't even trust our own system that well, so introducing foreign pilots is only bringing the tension. And my personal experience, I was flying, maybe Shanghai, landing nighttime over Shanghai. Yeah, somewhere there. So when I see the city lights, we are starting to descend, but it's actually diving. The Russian seat is foldable, more like the ones in the theater. So the back of the seats falls forward. All the unoccupied seats falls forward. That was diving. So and in the night, that brings me to the end of my experience in Russian aircraft. I don't want to fly them again. Really, I don't want to fly them. I'm okay with flying strange aircraft because one of my clients was still operating 727. 727. So one day I went to their office and they say, "You took our aircraft." I said, "Yes, I'm selling you my aircraft, so I'm taking your aircraft." I said, "That was 727. I said, "Yeah, I know that." So I'm okay with traveling with old aircraft, but there's a limit for that.
So you're mentioning about, traveling all over. So how, were you just jumping from city to city to city, or did you have to go to France at any time, or what was your routing like?
I travel more than 200 days a year. I go to Europe maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And mainly my business is within the airport area. My office in Beijing was later on moved to airport. When we have a training and a maintenance center. Earlier was in downtown city as a business office. So you normally go from airport to airport, literally, and talking to the people there working there is easier. So when you step in, they actually know which flight you took because they have very accurate schedule on their walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the actual marketing and the sales of the aircraft that you flew. Like, I'm assuming the livery was just the generic Airbus livery on it, and then you would fly in, and would the plane basically hang out on the tarmac, be brought into a hangar, or how did you present the physical aircraft?
You mean delivery?
Delivery, or even just the marketing
or the
and sales
demoing, or
side?
the
Yeah.
on ground demo.
Most of the thing we're just talking. Sales department got salespeople and marketing people, so they are constantly calculating, predicting, and also they gather information from engineers. So performance, it's really me talking to the airline people, and they say we want performance analysis for certain airports, between certain airports, and then I'll say, okay, I'll go to my marketing people and say, we need that. Do you have that? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So they are collecting information from airports, and then they will collect information from engineer. And if that's not enough, then we will need to bring in more people. Like I mentioned before, Chinese bosses are mainly pilots or engineers, so they do have detailed requirements of explanation. One day when we'll have a meeting, and we're saying that Airbus A320 was heavier than 737, but we fly with less fuel. And then the boss says, how can you fly a heavier thing with less fuel? And the engineer says, yeah, I can give you the details, but I need to kill you afterwards because that's confidential and that's experience. That's a lot of secrets over there. So if you're selling an aircraft to South American, the bosses might be a dentist, because it's the business from the family, so they don't care about that. But in China, it's very different. And because Airbus is new, so once I was given a job to do a technical seminar, pure technical seminar to one of the college in China, aviation college. And the topic covers avionics, aerodynamic, and aircraft engine. I can't find the translator to do the job. So I told my boss it should be me doing the job, but I don't know all the detailed levels of knowledge. Do you want me to do the job? Boss says, if you can't find the translator, you'll have to do it yourself. So then it's my trouble to solve the problem. And we got so many materials in the office, but I don't know where to start, and I don't think we have time to finish it in time. So finally, I noticed that we do have the flight manual, the captain manual. I said, okay, I'm going to bring these home, but it was like 1 foot thick, 3 volumes. So, I don't even have a bag to bring those things. So I came to the office Saturday morning, sit there whole day long, 8, maybe 10 hours, reading
the flight manual.
Flight manual from page 1, from bottom to the from top to the bottom. Within 1 day. And the Monday morning, we went to the college, did the presentation. That's another 8-10 hours presentation. And then we had a dinner with all the professors. And they asked, Dee, which aviation school you're from? The north one or the south one? I said, I'm sorry, I was from the shipping business. And that was pre-911. And so when I read the news that those guys were training and hijacking aircraft, I told myself I could do the job. Technically, I could do the job. I don't have the courage or motivation to do it.
But you put yourself through the manual.
I read through the manual. Yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how crazy I was. Yeah.
Now, were you always crazy ever, like since childhood, like with aviation? Did you like planes as a kid, or like did like Airbus just sort of fall into your lap later on, kind of thing, or like just the aviation, the desire to go and work for Airbus was unrelated to, say, any childhood excitement for airplanes? Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Yes, that's a good one.
I think I start to like airplane like most of the boys when I was a kid. Now I recall two things. First one, my teacher, my Chinese language teacher in my primary school once told me that why you always put aircraft in your homeworks? I can't understand the shit. and and secondly, one day we were asked to bring our handworks to the school. So I brought my paper plane model and put it underneath the window. So during the class, the propellers are started rotating because of the wind, and it causes a small sensation in the classroom. Yeah, I do love aircraft since I was a little boy. And later on, when I was able to understand more, I bought the only and the most famous magazine, Aviation Knowledge, 航空知识 in Chinese. So yeah, I was a loyal reader for many years. And I think even though I don't have systematic education for aviation, that's the only reason they hired me in Airbus. They don't hire idiots.
Wow.
So back then, would you have had any idea that Airbus was going to become as successful as it is now, this time later?
Airbus was already number 2 because Boeing merged MD at that time already. So it's Boeing McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends were teasing with me. You always want to the second in the place, right? I say, that's my only opportunity. I don't have a choice. And they interview a lot of people, not me, and interviewing a lot of companies. But as we all understand, the best company is always trying to set the standard, and the second-class company are doing the product. So the slogan at that time, I'm not sure if it's still the same slogan right now, but at that time it was setting the standard. Well, that becomes my burden to make sure people buy the concept. And one day when I walk into my client office, they are Boeing client. The guys were waiting for me. It was an ambush. They say, the Boeing field engineer told me that we have a term, AOG means Airbus on ground. That's a technical failure when you have a no-go list. So they say AOG doesn't mean aircraft on ground, but means Airbus on ground. That was very bad.
Oh, yeah.
That was very bad, and I was not prepared. So I paused a little bit and say, thank you very much. I want you to relay my thanks to the Boeing engineer. And they were like, are you stupid? They're teasing you. I said, yeah, hang on. AOG means aircraft on ground. And now Boeing says it means Airbus on ground. So if we delete on ground, that means Boeing says Airbus means aircraft, or aircraft means Airbus. And we're setting the standard. So thanks for that. We've set the standard.
Nice.
Like, no way.
That's a great comeback.
Well, I was not prepared for that. I guarantee you.
Well, you were able to pivot and turn it right away, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know you mentioned. Well, I mean, you flew a lot. And we asked you before, like, if you had any favorite airports or ones that you didn't like. Did you? And you mentioned you flew to so many that it's like you didn't really have any particular favorites. But are there any ones that, like, when you land there, it just feels really nice, or you enjoy the experience of landing somewhere, or any particular airport?
To be honest, I really don't have any favorable or non-favorable airports because I was in the business. I was in shipping, so I know how the ports or airports are supposed to be operational. And secondly, because I was doing sales, I do a lot of presentations with data, but personally, I do my own marketing, which is talking to the taxi drivers and passengers. I try to talk to airport staff, but they are normally busy and not in the mood to talk. But talking with taxi drivers and passengers, I got a direct feedback. How's the business? How do they like it or not? So it doesn't matter if it's a good airport or a bad airport. My mind was not there. And I do have cancellations. I was misinformed. I was mistreated, misguided, everything. No, I never lost a bag. I was lucky enough. But no, I don't have a problem with airports anyways, anywhere. I can find my way out anyways. I know the office is on the second floor. So I'm sorry for that. I'm very different passenger, even if I travel a lot.
So at that time, and you're obviously 200 plus days a year traveling. From that and up till now, do you have any personal tips, or we call it a hack, I guess, that you can share? Mm-hmm. Something personally you do to smooth out travel?
Yes, but it's not directly flight related. It's more travel thing. Actually, on my first seminar in Airbus, my boss was delivering a speech and he confused the place he was in. And I have to correct him. I said, "Oh, you're my boss. You're better than that." But later on, after my full year of traveling, I start to lose my track of where I am. Every morning when I woke up, I need to think, which city is this? Every evening when I go back, I always press my room number wrong. It was my last hotel's room number. It's always like that. So yeah, when you travel, you really want to save some time for yourself because otherwise you are so stressed. I'm happy working, but you're stressed without knowing. That's one thing. The other is that you need to respect the local culture. For example, when I was traveling many times to Europe, mainly to France, Toulouse, where the headquarters is, and I start talking English without thinking, and I got no response in France. And all of a sudden one day, I told myself I was such a stupid guy because they speak French. So, and that solved the problem because next time I'm starting to ask direction in French. Well, I wasn't actually asking direction in French. I was asking in French, do they speak English? Excusez-moi, parlez anglais? That's the only words I can speak in French. All of a sudden, they become friendly and very good English speakers. And I always get what I want. With only one exception, one old gentleman really can't speak English. But he understands where I want to go. It was Napoleon's tomb or something. And he brought me there. It's only 2 blocks away, but he brought me there. They are so warm-hearted people. It's very different from what they look, if you know how to respect them. And secondly, another tip was be careful of the foreign culture. So you respect them and also need to be careful. Once I was also traveling, I guess, to France again. And because I was flying first class, they offer me a very special cheese. It looks blue or green. Anyways, it's one of the dangerous version. I had no meeting. I had no connection flight that day. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And I felt dizzy all day long. I didn't throw up, but I didn't feel good. So be careful. Don't do anything strange on your day one.
Was the cheese good?
The cheese was good when you eat it, but my stomach says no.
It wasn't so good.
It's good. I'm sure it's a good thing. Otherwise, it won't go to the first class. But it has to be one of the special version, but it's not for me. So yeah, that's it. You need to be more careful for yourself. You need to be more careful for the environment. It's fun. After that, it's pure fun.
Exactly, and that's why we love travel, and that's the joy of it all. So it keeps us ticking. Any 2-part question? What's your favorite Airbus product? And then in general, Do you have a favorite aircraft out there in the world?
Favorite Airbus aircraft. The one I always wanted to try and never got a chance was the Super Beluga, the converted version from A300, and they turned that into the cargo version for the fuselage. According to the engineer, they say the fuselage is providing 70% of the lift instead of the wings. Yeah. So I really want to try that. It looks so special. I think that's my favorite. So different. Apart from that, my favorite aircraft was P-51 from World War II and F-16 for the jet time. They are beautiful. They are just beautiful.
Nice. That's cool. You don't hear people talk about Super Beluga much these days. Yeah, actually. Yeah. I mean, Boeing came up with the Dream Lifter, but the original,
the Beluga is something all
it's
itself.
Unique. Yeah. Come on, it's so special. It's handmade.
And you look at it.
You don't. If the thing don't exist, you can never imagine. When you see it, you see the potential, and that's an eye opener.
And also, you look at it and you think, how is this thing going to get off the ground? There's no way. Like, really?
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, well, and just, I mean, you talked about, those being like fighter aircraft. Do you have, say, like a favorite? I mean, it could be like classic, like airline or classic plane for passenger flight. So, I mean, if you're going back in time, say like Electras or Constellations or, was there any particular plane, like passenger related plane that you really like the looks of or flew in?
Well, I do think 747 is the pioneer in the industry. It's the first double-decker, even though it's not full double-decker, but then it's the same thing. It's like it's like a combi between a Super Beluga and a normal aircraft. It looks so weird, and the thing flies, and it's 4-engine wide body, intercontinental, everything together. It's powerful. Yeah, I think I vote for 747, even though I was looking for Airbus.
Good answer. I think a lot of the ab geeks that listen will give you a thumbs up on that one for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone.
Cheers for the hump.
Yeah. Perfect. So that was awesome. Thank you, Dee. That was great to kind of get a completely different perspective of air travel and insider knowledge of how things work. And I think the best part was
the knowledge or the insight into like Chinese aviation in the late 90s and the absolute craziness of how the market was just exploded from very small to very large.
Yeah. If any of our listeners, if you're out there and you're flying, maybe not right now, but eventually flying back through China when they do reopen at some point, just hopefully you listen to this and kind of look out the window and see the Airbus products out there and think, well, people like Dee are part of that journey to get those aircraft out there. So.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. It's my pleasure to share my knowledge and experience. Hope to see you again sometime.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're liking this episode experience, you may also enjoy Experience 38, Layover with a Special Guest, an interview with Paul Papadimitriou. It's available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Well, that was a really cool and fantastic interview with Dee. And as we move on from that, what's happening in the news?
Well, to be honest, as we search, there's just a lot of talk about the chaos that is ensuing in the travel and aviation world right now. And I think we're going to talk a bit more about that in our next experience. But we like to find some different stuff. So here's something kind of different. Let's talk about fish. Remember the last time I said that?
Oh, that was experience 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
Yeah. We were recording in Vancouver together. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So this Bacca Frost. So Bacca Frost is a company. So this is the Faroese salmon farm that plans to reduce food waste by flying fish in a Boeing 757. This is an article from Simple Flying. So Bacca Frost processes salmon out on the Faroe Islands, and they want to deliver to New York City as quick as possible. So Faroe Islands is somewhere between Iceland and Scotland in the North Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
And
lots of sheep.
Yeah, and a lot of fish. So Bacca Frost is a fish farm company, and what they are basically doing, I mean, they've had a 757 to freighter their stuff, but what they're doing now is filling the whole thing and turning the aircraft into a flying fridge, for the lack of a better term, like a massive reefer fridge, 0 degree. It's going to carry 35 tons from Airport FAE, Foxtrot Alpha Echo, Vagar Faro International Airport, Direction Airport in New Jersey. And it's going to take about 6 hours. And the whole shtick is that someone will be able to eat the product, the salmon, by that evening.
Wow.
And literally as fresh as you can possibly get it there. So, yeah, I mean, hail the 757. I still love that aircraft.
And looking at just the Wikipedia for the stats for Vagar Airport, that's about the biggest airplane that probably could handle it, because it's only a 5,906 foot or 1,800 meter long runway. Because anything larger than that, it probably wouldn't be able to take off.
And that's what I remember with the 5.7. That was one of the unique selling factors, that it was able to take short field runways.
It's a rocket on the takeoff.
Yeah. We're working it, and you just look at this funny shape, but I think you said it's kind of like that hawk.
Yeah, appearance. like you knew, like when I worked on the ground, and there was I think it was American, one of the U.S. airlines, American or United, had 757s at the time in Calgary, and I just loved walking by because the nose was just different than anything else, and it just, you knew it was there, and not necessarily the most comfortable inside for passengers, but comments I've heard from other people on other podcasts and others, like it takes off fast.
Yeah. I worked at in Edmonton when I was doing ground engine work, and it was popular amongst the charter airlines. Mm-hmm. Sky Service Airlines at the time operated them, and exactly ditto to what you just said. It was unique. You're right. Inside, I mean, it's a narrow body. It's 3 and 3, and it's just this long tube with not enough bathrooms, and it is what it is. But so there you go, flying fish.
Yeah,
galore.
And I mean, otherwise, it could have been, if it wasn't flying, it would have been turned into, scrap. And that's going to lead to the other story that we got here. So there are new Delta Sky Miles Reserve card. So what's happening is a retired Boeing 747 is getting turned into credit cards.
This is an American Express card, I think.
This is an American Express card. So starting Thursday, June 16th, new approved applications of the Delta Sky Miles Reserve card will get a limited edition design made partially of metal from the aircraft, along with the history of the Queen of the Skies. 25% of the metal from Delta Boeing 747 6307.
That's, I don't know if I would use the card. I would just frame it.
Could you imagine, like if you had the card lost or stolen, how
I'd be devastated,
despondent, and you'd be with the loss of it.
Yeah, no kidding. Boy. Or as hand it over at random shop, and they ramming it through the machine to swipe it.
Stop!
Scratching it. Yeah.
or when you get the new one, and the credit card instructions, they're always cut through the old one. I don't know.
Yeah, it's chip your scissor with it.
Yeah, I'll just sort of put this one aside, and as you said, put it in a shadow box or a frame or something, and that'll be that.
Yeah, exactly.
And apparently, they had stats about it. It was the plane, 27 years of service, 14,100 flights, 116,548 hours, equivalent of 13 plus years airborne. 68 million miles traveled, same as going around the Earth more than 2,700 times. 4 million passengers carried, and average speed was 564 miles per hour. So they used the stat comparable to traveling the length of Manhattan in under 90 seconds.
Wow. That's that. How many hours again? 116,000?
116,548 flight hours. How many C checks and D checks did this thing go through?
That's impressive. That's just, wow.
Yeah, so it's Sky Miles Gold, Platinum, and Reserve card there. So
that's a 400 too. I mean, if it's not like it was originally like a 200, it's like the most recent variant. Well, okay. I mean, the Dash 8 is the most recent, I suppose, but the most common one is the 400. Right. So
I guess it also shows how long the 400 variant has been around.
I know. In my mind, it's still recent, but no, it's not. So,
yeah.
We need some
so it was first put into service in 1990 with Northwest.
And that makes sense. And then when Northwest and Delta became one.
Exactly. Then flew under 3 different liveries. So the first Northwest, the second Northwest, and then a Delta livery probably, right?
Yeah. Or maybe 2 Deltas.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
That is crazy. So that was a terrific experience there. And that wraps up experience 61 of the Seat 1A podcast.
If you liked this podcast experience, be sure to rate us and subscribe. Tell your friends and fellow travelers about us. Make sure you visit us at podcast.seat1a.org for complete show notes. That's Sierra Echo Alpha Tango, the number 1 alpha.org. Feedback, addenda, letting us know where we've messed up. You can send all of that to stories, STORIES, at seat1a.org. If you'd like to support the show financially, we have a page at Patreon, patreon.com/seat1a. Links are included in the show notes.
And here's what you can look forward to on upcoming podcast experiences. We're going to take a look at our upcoming summer travel plans and probably let's take a quick peek as to what travel chaos is going on out there. Have a passport application in the go and a few other random things. And of course, we have our list that we're working through. We're going to bring you airport wayfinding and traveling with seniors. As always, we look forward to hearing about your crazy travel experiences as you get back out there in the skies or on the road or on the rails. So if you have anything you'd like us to discuss or if you want to share something with us, please do get in touch and let us know.
Excellent. So until the next time, I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening.
And I'm Vinod. You're cleared for takeoff. Have a great flight.